everyone. So it's Friday now. Going with my Halloween alliteration thing. I want to call this Fearsome Friday or something to do with fears. I don't know. I want to focus on certain fears, I guess. I don't know, I'll think about it, but for now, we have Intensive Scare Unit. I want to play it because it's Paranormasight, a horror game I really loved. You can check that out on my YouTube if you want. Before I begin, I'd like to address the warnings. Content warnings: violence, death, blood, critical illness, gore, foul language, biological horror, and use of drugs. It also contains flashing imagery and jump scares. Player discretion advised. Photosensitivity, epilepsy stuff, that kind of warning. Let's get into it, I guess. Sigh. It's my first night shift during residency today. Mom and Dad have always wanted me to follow in their footsteps, to become a specialist. Mom was a pediatrician and Dad was a neurosurgeon. I followed their wishes and got accepted to residency, but all I want is to get a good night shift. I can't say I had high expectations for my first night shift in the ICU, but if I'd known it would be this gloomy, I might have tried to get more than 3 hours of sleep. From the moment I walked through the doors, it felt like I stepped into a different world. The lights are dim, the beeping is constant, and the whole atmosphere feels like it's one bad day away from a horror movie. I found Satria, who is supposed to be my 1 year... I found Satria, who is supposed to be 1 year my senior, in the staff room, looking like he'd just crawl out of a zombie movie. He was practically a zombie, with dark circles so deep they could double as eye sockets. His scrubs were a mess, and he had this dazed, hollowed look on his face. Good evening, senior. My name's Leah.
I know. Drop it. Just be casual with me.
Oh.
You're the first year resident here, right? Ate your dinner already?
Yes.
Good. You'll need all the extra calories. Anyway, welcome.
Satria doesn't give up the seniority vibe in residency, unlike some of my peers. I've been told that residency is like being part of some medieval hierarchy where you're the lowly maid and everyone else is a noble with a stick up their... Well, you get the idea. But then there's Satria. I mean, the guy actually seemed... nice. Yeah, I know, it's almost hard to believe. I'm supposed to do a night round with the junior shift before me. Do you know where they are? Satria blinked at me like I'd just interrupted a really intense daydream.
They went home.
He just sounded like he'd been gargling gravel. I wonder if I'd be like that after a year of residency. Oh, is everything okay? Anything I can get you? He managed a half-hearted grin that did nothing to reassure me.
Nah, just one of those nights. Anyway, this means you'll be doing the night rounds with me. Let me explain everything, kid. Listen well, because I'm not repeating anything for you.
Alright.
Here's the deal with night shifts. It's a whole different beast. We're understaffed, so it's basically just you, me, and, well, one nurse tonight.
Wait, one nurse for the entire ICU?
He waved his hand as if it was nothing. Who needs nurses when they're residents, am I right? We're stretched thin, and it's a bit of a juggling act. The ICU's usually got more hands on deck, but tonight, it's a skeleton crew. So, expect things to get a little... interesting.
I I glanced around the ICU, trying to picture the lone nurse trying to handle everything. I'll do my best.
Good. If you're lucky, she'll be able to cover all the bases. But don't count on it. We'll need to pitch in whenever we can. So I'd like you to take charge of the patient bills.
Patient bill duty? What does that involve?
It's exactly what it sounds like. You'll be the one answering the patient's call bells. Every time a patient hits their call button, it's your job to respond. It's one of those tasks that gets handed off to the newbies because it's hella boring, but crucial.
Amazing. I'd already been dreading the prospect of juggling everything else, and now I had to deal with constant interruptions from call bells, too.
Here's how it works. Each patient room has a call button next to the bed. When they press it, an alarm goes off at the nurse's station. Well, it would if we had more than one nurse on tonight. So you'll need to be the one who gets up and checks on them.
Understood.
Alright, Leah. Let's do a quick round so you know what you're dealing with tonight.
Satria led me through the dimly lit corridors of the ICU. He stopped in front of the main nurse's station and gestured for me to follow as he began his impromptu tour. We started at room 101.
This is Angela Liam, 7 years old, recovering from post-end shock syndrome. She's stable but still needs monitoring. Sweet kid, but she's been through a lot. As for pediatric patients, you deal with the parents mostly.
I peered through the glass window of the room, seeing a tiny figure nestled in the bed, her mom sitting anxiously beside her. Her mom looks kind of familiar. Satria led me to room 104 next.
Here we have Mrs. Selvina, 47 years old. She's on a ventilator because her liver cancer has metastasized everything.
Medical words.
Her condition is critical, so keep an eye on her. We can't get hold of her family yet, so no DNR.
I glanced at the room where a ventilator hissed rhythmically, and Mrs. Selvina lay still. Next, we moved to room 108. Hello? As we walked past room 108, a loud crash jolted me, followed by the sound of someone, or something, thrashing around like a wild animal. What was that?
This is Mr. X. We basically found him on the streets. He's in delirium, in pain, and we found some injectable drugs in his belongings. Probably OD'd on something. Think something's crawling inside of him. Pain in the ass, really. Just try to handle him with patience. Morphine every other hour or so. He'll let us know.
So we're just gonna let him fight his imaginary demons in there?
Until he starts tearing the place apart, then we sedate him. Anyway, you definitely need to keep this one in check.
Finally, we arrived at room 110.
Mr. Joko Mulono, 75 years old. He had diabetic gangrene that caused a septic shock and just had a leg amputation. He's in a rough spot and can be a bit grumpy, but he's generally manageable.
Satria glanced at his watch and sighed.
Shift starts at 9 p.m. and runs until 7 a.m. You got a mix of serious cases and one that's gonna test your patience. Try to keep track of their needs and be ready for anything.
Got it. Any tips on how to deal with the patients while I'm at it? Satria gave me a weary look.
The usual. Be polite, be efficient, and try not to let them see how frazzled you are. The call bell might seem like a nuisance, but it's there for a reason. Keep an eye on the frequency of the calls. It might give you clues if something's wrong.
He paused, as if considering whether to add more.
Also, be prepared for the occasional strange request. It's the ICU after all. People and things here are usually not in the right state of minds.
What do you mean?
You'll see.
Satria looked like he was about to collapse on the spot.
Just do your best, kid. We're all running on fumes, but we'll get through it. And if you need anything, well, try not to hesitate. Almost forgot. Since we're working at an ICU, try to answer the patient bills as fast as you can, yeah? Any call might be someone's life and death. I mean, you can't just undo your mistakes in real life, right?
As Satria shuffled off to the doctor's call room, he moved so listlessly it was like he was gliding through the shadows. Seriously, the guy looked like he was part of the decor. I bet that's gonna be me after a year. I made my way to the nurse's station towards the patient bell call. The nurse on duty who had been introduced to me as part of the skeleton crew for the night was standing at the desk. She looked up as I approached, and my first impression was that her face was so pale she almost blended into the background. Hello? I'm Leah, the new resident, just checking in. Hello? The nurse didn't respond. Instead, she just stared at me with vacant eyes and nodded. It was as if she was too tired or overwhelmed to offer any kind of greeting. Alrighty then, I'll be around if you need anything or if there's any news. Yes. But nope, no reply, just silent nodding. It was like talking to a very pale, very silent mannequin. The chill in the room seemed to grow thicker with every second, and the silence was starting to feel like it was pressing in on me. I turned and headed back towards the patient rooms, trying not to let the oppressive atmosphere get to me. Did the lights just flicker? Probably my imagination. ICU was dark, eerie, and every sound seemed to amplify the sense of unease. It's like Satria and the nurse were just the icing on the cake of this unsettling shift. I took a deep breath and braced myself. This is gonna be a long night. I stood at the nurse's station, all eyes on the patient bell monitor. It was one of those moments where you try to pretend you're not staring, but it's impossible to look away. The monitor was supposed to make my job easier, but right now it was feeling like a bad omen. Out of nowhere, the first bell rang, not just once, but 3 times simultaneously. Consecutively? You mean? My heart skipped a beat as I glanced at the monitor. Rooms 108 and 110 were flashing with alarms. Standard fare for an ICU, I suppose. But then, room 112. The monitor showed its bell ringing too. Room 112 was empty. Or was it? Hello, what am I doing? I pressed the intercom button on room 108. Good evening, sir. It's Dr. Leah. What's going on in there? A long, unsettling silence followed, broken only by the humming of ventilators. I was about to repeat myself when a garbled voice came through the speaker.
She's inside me.
His voice cracking with pain and something else. Fear, maybe?
Her hands scratching, trying to get out.
I swallowed hard, trying to keep my tone professional. Sir, there's nothing under your skin. You're just experiencing a symptom of your condition.
No.
His voice was louder now, frantic. I could hear the sound of him thrashing in his bed, the bed frame creaking under the force.
You don't understand. It's her. Her nails. I can feel them. Digging.
Sir, just breathe, okay? I'm coming in to check on you, but you have to stay still, alright? No reply, just a wheezing laugh crackled through the intercom, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I reached the door to room 108, bringing the sedatives with me. Suddenly, everything was eerily quiet. Groggily, I glanced down the hallway, hoping to ask for assistance from Zatria or the nurse, but I was alone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself as I pushed open the door to room 108. I should have let Zatria take this one. Mr. X was thrashing violently, face contorted in agony. His hands were clawing at his own skin, scratches covering his arms where he tried to dig out whatever he believed was inside him.
Help, please. Please get her out. I can't take it anymore.
I'm just gonna sedate you, sir. It'll help with the pain, but you have to let go, alright? As I reached for a syringe, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength.
Let go. Let go. She's in me. Her nails, they're cutting through. She's gonna crawl out of me and into you. She'll tear us all apart.
His grip tightened, and for a moment I could almost feel it. A sharp, cold scratch just beneath my own skin, like nails dragging through fresh flesh. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had to. It was just a delusion. It's just the drugs. It's just paranoia. I injected the sedative into his IV, and Mr. X's breathing slowed, his thrashing subsiding as the sedative took effect. But even as his eyes fluttered shut, he kept whispering to himself,
She's coming.
I backed out of the room, trying to calm my trembling hands. But then, as I started down the hallway, something stopped me in my tracks. It was faint at first, a soft, melodic hum that seemed to drift through the stillness. Who the heck is singing at this hour? I paused, my ears straining to catch it. The sound grew clearer, and my blood ran cold. A Pissenden was singing? Is that like a siren or whatever? Her voice was haunting, laced with a sorrow that seeped into my bones. And if that wasn't enough, there was a distant clink of a gamelan orchestra began to play along with her. Oh my god!
The hell's going on?
It was coming from Mr. X's room. It couldn't be from his phone or TV. The Pethendian's voice was so close. It was like she was standing right behind me, singing directly into my ear. Right, so this game has like Indonesian folklore, I think, so forgive me if I say these wrong. I half expected to feel her cold breath on my neck.
She's coming.
And then, just like that, the music cut off. Everything fell into a silence so thick it was suffocating. Maybe I've had too much coffee. That's it. I rushed back into the nurse station, trying to shake off whatever just happened. I stood at the nurse's station again when the bells for room 101, room 103, and room 104 all started ringing at once. Not this again. Room 103 was empty, completely. And utterly empty. So why the hell was the bell ringing? And room 104 had Mrs. Selvina, who was unconscious and paraplegic. She couldn't ring the bell even if she wanted to. I glanced at the nurse who was still standing there, eerily mute as if the chaos around us didn't even register. What the hell's going on with this night shift? Petria, my ever-reliable senior, just let out a sarcastic laugh.
Well, seems like there's a welcome party for you.
I I pressed the intercom button for room 104 and was greeted by a loud crash, the unmistakable sound of something shattering on the floor. Hello? Mrs. Sylvina? No answer. I quickly rushed to room 104. I pushed the door open and the room was dark. As I turned on the lights, I saw a cup of tea laying in pieces. There was no one else in the room but Mrs. Sylvina, who was unconscious in her bed, oblivious to the mess. Jesus Christ, seriously? I crouched down to inspect the shards of glass, looking for any sign of how the cup had ended up on the floor. There was no obvious cause, no one to knock it over, no sudden movement that could have sent it crashing. It was as if it had just decided to jump off the table of sheer spite. Okay, focus. It's just a cup. Just a cup. Of course, there was no cleaning service in sight, which meant I was the one in charge of cleaning it. As I moved to clean up the mess, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I couldn't help but glance at the window, half expecting to see something or someone watching me from outside. And to Mrs. Savina? What is wrong with me? Mrs. Salvina, thinking she could just jolt awake at any moment. Hold it together, Leah. I quickly gathered the pieces of the cup and turned to leave. But before I could reach the door, I thought I heard a faint whisper, just a breath of sound, like a warning. I froze, my heart racing as I glanced back at Mrs. Selby. She remained still, her breathing steady but shallow. As if this night couldn't get any weirder. I quickly left the room, huffing to myself. Feeling thirsty, I wandered into the doctor's lounge. Sachira was already there, leaning against the counter while stirring 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one with a half smirk. Hello. Thanks.
Hang in there, kid. This is just your first shift.
Hey, this is what I signed up for.
Easy for you to say. You're one of the blue bloods, aren't you? Everyone knows about you. What was it? Mom's a pediatrician, Dad's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. They're always comparing me to them, telling me how much harder I need to work. I don't even want to be a doctor anyway.
Still, must be nice though, having parents who made things so much easier. Wish I had that kind of leg up. My family put everything into getting me here. Now it's on me to make sure it's worth it.
I looked at him, really looked, and for a second I caught a glimpse of the weight he carried. Well, I guess we're both just trying not to mess it up.
Yeah, something like that.
I leaned back, taking a longer sip of the coffee, letting the silence sit for a bit. So, why'd you decide to be a doctor?
Honestly, for my parents. It's not like I had some big passion for it or anything. They're not well off, and... well, it felt like the only way to give back.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they sacrificed so much to get me here. It's on me to make it count. Plus, they're not gonna be able to help my sister much longer. I figured I could chip in with her uni loans while I'm out of residency, you know?
On residence? That's... heavy.
Yeah, well, it's not like I can quit now.
But why emergency medicine? Of all the specialties, you chose the one where people are literally running in and out non-stop?
I didn't exactly choose it. It was the only one available through the scholarship I got. Had to take what I could get.
Oh, so this isn't your first choice?
I mean, it's fine. I don't hate it or anything. But if I'm being honest, it was never really about what I wanted. It was just about making sure I could get through med school without bankrupting my parents.
Sachira stretched a bit before grabbing his things.
Anyway, I better get back. The nurse seems inexperienced.
Just before he left, he paused at the doorway and looked back at me.
Residency's brutal, kid. There's still time to leave if you don't want to be here. Hang in there, okay?
Before I could respond, he gave me a small smile and disappeared down the hall. Ring! The clock struck midnight, and the ICU erupted into chaos. Every damn bell on the intercom rang out like crazy. I turned to Satria, his face just as pale as mine. What's happening?
I have no freaking idea. It's like the whole damn place is losing it.
The ringing bells drowned out our voices, and I was struggling to speak. I felt the urge to run, but from what? From our helpless patients? Then I noticed the nurse, the one who hadn't spoken a word since we started.
Is this a drill?
Oh, so she was human after all. Thank God.
A drill? At this goddamn hour?
The nurse took a step back, looking ready to faint. I don't know. I'm a new employee, too. Nobody told me about this.
Leah, just press the button.
Huh?
Just answer any intercom. Maybe it'll stop.
Roger that. I pressed the intercom button to hear a low scratching sound echoing through the speaker like nails raking against wood. Hello? Are you there? No answer, just more scratching. I hurried to room 104, bringing a broom with me for no apparent reason. I pushed the door open, and there she was, Mrs. Selby, still unconscious in her bed. But then I saw the walls. Scratch marks crisscrossed the surface, as if someone or something had been trying to claw their way out. I moved closer, the sound of scratching growing louder in my ears. What the hell? I reached out to touch the wall, feeling the rough texture of the scratches beneath my fingertips. Then I blinked. In an instant, the marks and everything else vanished, as if it was just a dream.
Leah?
Holy crap! I swung the broom at him, almost hitting his face.
Whoa, easy there.
Satria, what are you doing here?
The nurse station monitor was beeping. Her vitals are dropping.
I glanced at the monitors, and he was right.
When she crashes, get ready.
The scratching, did you hear it too when you entered?
Huh? Yeah. Souls that are about to die often start wandering. You know, searching for something or someone. But hey, we're all just passing through, right?
At those words, I felt a shiver run through me. It was like his face darkened, as if he wasn't really there. Satria?
It's nothing. Let's keep an eye on Mrs. Selby.
I stepped back and left the room with Satria. His words kept ringing in my head as if an omen. 3 bells rang out at once. Rooms 108, 101, and room 105. I groaned. Room 108 was Mr. X, who's convinced someone is crawling under his skin. Room 101, Angela and her tic-tac famous mom with the mysterious knocking. And room 105, empty. Perfect. I pressed the intercom for room 108, and the sound of Mr. X retching immediately filled the speaker. His voice, even more frantic and broken than before, cut through the noise.
She's out.
Pardon?
She's out, but I can still hear her. She's here. Help.
Sir, I'll be there in a... Sir?
You hear it too, don't you, Doctor?
As I listened, something else crept in, something familiar. A piston-din song, soft at first, like a lullaby from hell, getting louder and closer with each second. The song drowned out Mr. X's screaming. The hairs on my neck stood on end as her voice wound through the static. It inched closer and closer, until it felt like she was right here in the nurse station instead of Mr. X's room. I can't do this alone. I bolted toward room 108, dragging the new nurse with me despite her protests. The eerie wails from Mr. X still echoed in my ears as we rushed down the dimly lit hallway. Hello. When we burst into the room, the bed was empty. The song had also stopped. Sir? I looked to the window, but it seemed like it was jammed shut. Over there! The nurse pointed at Mr. X, cowering under the bed, his wide eyes glinting with terror. Sir, what are you doing under there? I knelt down, trying to see him better. Screech. Before I could get an answer, the nurse beside me let out a blood-curdling scream. She stumbled back, clutching her foot, eyes wide with fear. Doctor, something's scratching me. It's under the floor, scratching me. A cold chill ran down my spine. The scratching, that horrible feeling from earlier, was back, and it wasn't just in my head. The nurse felt it too. Whatever was down there, it wasn't done with us yet. But helping Mr. X came first. I had to sedate him. Mr. X was still trembling under the bed, his eyes darting around like he was seeing something I couldn't. I injected the sedative into his arm, trying to ignore everything else while the nurse cowered behind me. Just breathe. His eyes fluttered closed as the drug took effect. I turned towards the nurse. Are you okay? My mom said being a nurse is an honorable profession. I'm just here for the paycheck. It's okay. He's asleep. Let's get out. But as I turned to leave, the silence was shattered by that haunting sound again. The Vicintin song. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. Let's go already. The nurse grabbed me by the arm. We bolted out of the room, the song echoing behind us, like it was chasing us down the hallway as we fled back to the nurse's station. I didn't even realize that the corridor had somehow become even darker than before. We didn't stop until we were back in the dim safety of the station, gasping for air. The song had faded, but whatever was happening in room 108, it was far from over. Satria was there. He raised an eyebrow when he saw us running, but didn't ask anything. Satria, do you know anything about Mr. X's background? I mean, besides the obvious nightmare we just dealt with. Satria leaned back, his eyes fixed at the ceiling. There's a rumor that he used to be filthy rich. But, you know, classic tale, lost everything. Bad investments, gambling, drug addiction, who knows. Really? How come? When they found him, he had this ridiculously expensive watch on him, like the kind that could pay off a car. No one's sure if he stole it or if it was his, but it's the only thing he had left. We keep hearing a gamelan song, and someone singing. Satria didn't even blink, just shrugged with that exasperating nonchalance. Maybe it's a vengeful lover haunting him, or his ex-wife. Who knows? Or maybe the music's just in his head, and now it's in yours too. There's no way. Either way, it's absolutely none of our business. I couldn't tell if he was being serious or just messing with us, but either way, it did nothing to calm the two of us. This is way above my pay grade. And I'm not even getting paid. Satria just smiled, that infuriating, calm smile. What? Reached the counter and poured 2 cups of tea. Wordless? I don't know. He handed one to the nurse and one to me.
Here, drink up. It'll help calm your nerves.
The nurse and I exchanged a glance, still too rattled to do anything. Finally, I took a sip anyway, trying to shake off my doubts and fear. The nurse did the same. If Satria could be this relaxed, maybe we could survive the rest of the night. Or maybe he was just as crazy as this place. The bells ring again.
Oh boy.
I pressed the intercom button on room 101, half expecting something out of a horror movie to greet me. Instead, Angela's mother's voice crackled through the speaker. Doctor, Angela's IV drip is running out. Could you come and replace it?
I'll be right there.
Relieved that it was something straightforward, finally, I grabbed a fresh IV bag and made my way to the room. But as soon as I walked in, the atmosphere felt off. Not again. Angela's mother, Mrs. Liam, was standing by the window, her expression a mix of worry and something else I couldn't quite describe. Her daughter seemed to be asleep peacefully in her bed. Excuse me, Mrs. Liam. I'm Dr. Leah. I'll be replacing your daughter's IV drip. Doctor, wait. I'm sorry to trouble you, but there's been knocking on the window. It's been happening for a while now, but when I look, there's no one there. Probably just the wind, ma'am? She just looked back at me. Or I could check for you. I moved to the window, opening the curtain and peering out into the darkness. Nothing. Just the faint reflection of the room behind me and the dark sky beyond. I shook the latch just to be sure, and it was securely locked. It's safe, ma'am. Nothing out there. She just gave me an uneasy smile. As I started to replace the IV drip, something about her tugged at the back of my mind. I felt like I'd seen her before. Are you on social media or something, Mrs. Liam? Your surname's familiar. Yes, I'm a Tic Tac model, Veronica Liam. I see. She didn't respond, just turned back to the window. She was holding her left wrist, and for a moment I thought I saw some bruising marks on them. As I finished up with the IV, the unease in the room seemed to thicken. Seems like I shouldn't have asked. Just press the bell if you need anything else. Angela's mom nodded again, but her gaze remained fixed on the window. It's as if she was waiting for something or someone that wasn't there. I quickly left the room, sighing to myself. The bells ring again. Girl. What do you want? Again? I pressed the intercom button on room 101 and it was Mrs. Liam again. Her voice sounded even more urgent. Dr. Leah, there's knocking again. It's fast, like someone's trying to get in. Please, could you come? Of course there is. When I entered, the room was dim, with just the faint glow of the monitoring equipment. Mrs. Veronica Liam was sitting beside Angela's bed, her face even paler than the last I saw her. Doctor, I'm sorry for bothering you, but it's been happening more frequently. The knocking, it's almost like it's demanding to be let in. As if on cue, the sound started again, sharp, rapid knocks that seemed to rattle the window. I took a deep breath and went to the window. Here we go again. I pulled it open, half expecting to see something or someone on the other side. Once again, there was nothing. The knocking had stopped immediately as well. It's fine, ma'am. There's nothing out there. Mrs. Liam shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm losing it. I've been so stressed out. My baby. I wasn't there for her. My job, with all the pressures on social media, kept me too busy. I abandoned her when she needed me most. Maybe it's just my guilt haunting me. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to say. An ICU where people died and went to critical condition seemed to feed on fear and guilt, twisting it into something that could reach out and touch you in the dark. What's important is you're here right by her side during this critical time, ma'am. She nodded, but her expression didn't change. The knocks had stopped, but the unease lingered. After excusing myself from room 101, I walked back to the nurse's station. The nurse was sitting there alone, tapping her pen on the desk, looking more bored than anything else. When she saw me approach, her eyes lit up. I wondered if she wanted to ask something about Mrs. Liam. You know Mrs. Liam? Who doesn't? She leaned in closer, about to spill some tea. Word is that Veronica Liam was having an affair with some famous actor. Big name in the industry. Her husband found out, and that's why he's nowhere to be seen. Left her to deal with everything on her own, even his own kid. Can you believe that? Oh, so that's why he's not here? Yep. Rumor has it the whole thing was a huge scandal. They kept it hush-hush because, reputation and all that. But everyone in the know, well, they know. And how do they know? Do you know? I felt a sudden, playful smack on the back of my head and turned around to see Satria grinning like a mischievous kid. No more gossiping on the job, Dr. Leah. You're supposed to be the professional here, or I'll tell on you. I rolled my eyes, rubbing the spot where he bonked me. Yes, sir. I was just, gathering intel. Sure, let's call it that. He chuckled as he strolled down the hallway, disappearing into the shadows. Try to keep it classy, okay? The bells ring again. What do you want from me? I pressed the intercom from room 101, already bracing myself. Mrs. Liam came through, her voice panicked. Doctor, the knocking, it's back. It's so loud now, and it sounds angry. Please help. I'm on my way. I grabbed my stethoscope, not sure what good it would do against angry spirits, and headed down the hallway. What was I supposed to do? Politely ask the ghost to knock quieter? Yes. When I entered room 101, Mrs. Liam was huddled in the corner, trembling, her fingers shakily pointing at the window. There. I walked to the window, steeling myself for another round of absolutely nothing. Oop, hello. A pale face shot up from the darkness outside. A child's face, except there were no eyes. Just empty, hollow sockets staring right at me. Gasp. I gasped, nearly tripping over myself as I stumbled backward. Mrs. Liam was sobbing in the corner. Angela shifted in her sleep, her small body twitching under the sheets, groaning as if in pain. My heart was still racing from the eyeless kid at the window, but it got worse when I heard it. Soft, eerie laughter. Angela, come play with me. I froze. Come on, Angela. Don't you want to play? I glanced at Angela. Her groans were getting louder, like she was trying to escape something in her sleep. Angela, come play. Just let go. Then I could see it, a faint, shimmering light pulling away from Angela, her soul rising like a wisp of smoke drawn toward the ghost kid. Don't go toward the light. No! No! Give her back! Get away from her! But Angela's mother, still huddled in the corner, was oblivious to whatever was happening to Angela. She just stared at the ghost kid, her face twisted in fear, not even realizing the danger her daughter was in. Angela! Fight it! You can't go with him! What's happening? The ghost child turned, grinning wider, his eyeless sockets boring into me. She wants to play, just like I do. Angela's soul followed the ghost kid, and the ghost kid laughed. He pointed at Mrs. Liam. She doesn't love you. You never had time for her. Angela. Angela's better off dead, so you can live a new life with that uncle. The ghost kid howled, his laughter ringing in the air. Mrs. Liam, help her! Help Angela! I tried to prevent them from getting out of the room, but the darkness around us thickened. I could feel it wrapping around me, pulling me back. I'm so sorry, dear. You don't get to say that now, Mom. You never cared about me. You were too busy with your stupid modeling career. See? I'm right, aren't I? I waited for you. I thought you'd love me enough to come back, but you didn't. I didn't know. I was wrong. Please, Angela, come back to me. Angela shook her head, tears streaming from her empty eye sockets. It's too late for that. You'll never understand. I wanted you to care. Angela likes me more. We'll be best buddies. We can play forever and ever. No more staying at home alone. Just fun and games with me. For a moment, I could see Angela hesitating, looking back at her mother. The ghost kid jumped in, his cackles screeching like nails on a chalkboard. Your mom doesn't love you. She only cares about herself. Come with me, Angela. We can have so much fun together. Mrs. Liam was a mess of tears and desperation. No, Angela. Please, I love you. I want you back. Is this a save button? Load button? Well, I gotta show the bruises, right? Sorry about this. Angela, your mom has suffered enough. Look at this. I grabbed Mrs. Liam's hand and showed her all the bruises she had. Angela stared in horror, not knowing what her mother had gone through. You need to go back to your body, to your mom. You can't just leave her like this. Angela's eyes flickered with a moment of hesitation, but the ghost kid tugged on her hand, whispering something in her ear. She looked at her mom one last time. I'm sorry, Mommy. I didn't know. Daddy beat you up, didn't he? And yet you stayed with him because of me. You can be free now. Free from Daddy and from me. With that, Angela turned and walked away with the ghost kid, her form fading into the darkness as her body in the bed began to tremble. The monitors were beeping as her vitals plummeted. Panic surged through me as I rushed to Angela's bedside and grabbed the intercom. Code Blue! Satria! Nurse! Satria and the nurse came running into the room, their faces grim as they saw Angela's lifeless body. We worked quickly, performing chest compressions, giving her oxygen, everything we could to bring her back. But deep down, I knew it was hopeless. Angela's soul had already left.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Time of death.
Mrs. Liam crumpled to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Angela's voice echoed in the room, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. I love you, Mom. Please, be free. I stumbled out of Angela's room, my hands shaking as the weight of everything finally hit me. I knew that being a doctor meant we'd see countless deaths, but I could not stop my tears from flowing after experiencing the events that transpired tonight firsthand. All I could hear was Angela's voice, her final words to her mom, the sound of the flat line ringing in my ears. This isn't happening. Or Angela. I heard footsteps approaching, and before I could gather myself, I felt a hand rest gently on my shoulder. Satya.
You did your best, kid.
I saw her leave. I saw the ghost child. I couldn't do anything. She's gone, just like that.
Comes with the job. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, some things are just out of our control. We're doctors, not gods.
But she was just a kid.
I know. You did everything you could, more than most would. Would that be enough?
For once, there was no sarcasm from him, just a quiet understanding. And somehow, that made me cry even harder. Satya stood there, silent, letting me cry it out, no pressure. Just there.
Angela dies.
The bells ring again. Sorry, Angela. The intercom crackled with a barely inaudible voice that sent a chill down my spine. My time is over. I froze for a second. Mrs. Selby? No, she was unconscious. Couldn't have been her, right? My heart pounded in my chest as I rushed down the hall, flinging the door open. Oh, hello. A figure lunged toward me, Mrs. Selby, but not quite. Her pale face twisted in a grotesque grin, her head tilting to the side as if it's broken. I gasped, stumbling back, nearly losing my balance. My heart hammered, but before I could catch my breath, she was gone. At that very moment, the monitor flatlined. No, no, no! I slammed the emergency button as I probed her carotid artery, desperate for a pulse. Satya, nurse, code blue! I can't talk. Without thinking, I started chest compressions. My hands trembled, but I pressed down harder. Not long after Satya burst in, the nurse right behind him.
Damn, when must it be tonight?
Doc, you look tired. Let me take over.
Leah, prepare the epi.
Roger that. The ghostly presence of Mrs. Selby, or whatever that was, lingered in the back of my mind. We kept working, time slipping away, adrenaline keeping us moving. I should probably turn the speed down, because it kind of takes away from the jump scare, I guess. I don't know. Satria's face was grim, the nurse's eyes wide as they exchanged a look that sent a fresh wave of fear through me.
That's enough. She's gone. Time of death.
The air in the room thickened and froze over, curdling into a suffocating tension. It was as if something was watching, waiting, ready to pounce out at any moment. The room was eerily silent now, except for the faint sound of the heart monitor's flatline, which was still ringing in my ears. Mrs. Selby was gone. Satya had already left to write down the death certificate, leaving the nurse and I to prepare her body for the morgue. We tried not to think too much. We just wanted to finish her job as fast as possible. But then I heard it, faint sobbing. At first, I thought it was my own nerves playing tricks on me, but when I glanced at the nurse, her eyes were wide, mouth agape. She heard it too. Did you hear that? Yeah. We tried to ignore it, focusing on our task, but the sound wouldn't stop. The sobbing grew louder, echoing through the small ward. It felt like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. As I reached to adjust Mrs. Selby's sheet, something caught my eye, a small crumpled photo peeking out of her gown. I gently pulled it out, smoothing the edges. It was a picture of her with 2 younger adults, likely her children. Smiling, happy. Why weren't they here to say goodbye? I stood there for a moment, frozen, clutching the photo. I couldn't leave it. Not here, not with her, in the cold of the morgue. Let's give it back to her family later. The nurse nodded, her eyes distant, the sobbing still haunting the air as we finished. The room's eerie silence pressed in on us again as we moved her body out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still crying. Was it Mrs. Selby's spirit? The bells ring again. Sir. I pressed the intercom button on room 110. Oops, that's not the right room. Oops. I remember it being Mr. Joko Moliono's room, the elderly man who'd recently had his leg amputated. Satria said he was one of the more stable patients, or at least he had been. Hello? His wife's voice crackled through the speaker, soft but urgent. Excuse me, nurse. My husband has a fever. He's not resting well. I'll be right there. I made my way to room 110. As I entered, the first thing I noticed was how warm the room felt, stuffy almost. Mr. Moliono was in bed, his face flushed and profusely sweating. He was asleep, but his body was restless, twitching as if something was bothering him even in his dreams. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Dr. Leah. May I check Mr. Moliono's temperature? Please go ahead, doctor. I checked his temperature. Definitely a fever. Nothing too alarming, but enough to need attention. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a vial of paracetamol, preparing to administer it. This will get the fever under control. As I injected the needle into his IV, I felt the presence of his wife hovering next to me. Mrs. Moliono seemed like a sweet elderly woman, the kind who reminded you of homemade cookies and knitting by the fireplace. But tonight, something felt off. Maybe it was just my imagination, though. Thank you, doctor. I glanced up, meeting her eyes. She was smiling, a kind, grandmotherly smile, but there was something strange behind it that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Well, maybe she's just worried about her husband. Of course. He should get better soon. You're very kind, doctor. We're so grateful for everything you're doing. Just doing my job, ma'am. Is there anything else you need? No. He's tired, dear. So very tired. Pardon? She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she just kept that unnerving smile fixed on me, her eyes boring into mine. I checked Mr. Moliono's vitals one last time, my hand shaking slightly. His fear was starting to come down, and he seemed to be slipping into a more peaceful sleep, but the room still felt too suffocating. And Mrs. Moliono kept smiling, never once moving. He should be fine for now. Just let me know if anything changes. Mrs. Moliono said nothing, just nodding silently as I turned to leave. I could feel her gaze burning into my back, that eerie smile still hanging in the air. The door clicked shut behind me, and I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. What is wrong with my first shift? I rushed back into the nurse station, trying to shake off whatever just happened. It was finally 6 a.m., the end of my first grueling night shift. I was ready to head home, barely able to keep my eyes open, when I noticed Satria standing by the exit. His silhouette framed by the morning sun, almost. Different, somehow. He waved me over with a faint smile.
Yo, kid. Thanks for everything.
Sure, I didn't do much.
Yeah, but still, thanks.
Okay, you sound like you're saying goodbye. There's still more shifts in the future.
Nah, you won't see me again after today. Take care of yourself, alright?
Before I could ask what he meant, he gave me a final wave, stepping into the sunlight. And then, just like that, he was gone. No footsteps fading, no doors closing. Just gone. I stood there, my mind spinning. Had I imagined it? The night had been long, sure, but this felt strange. Everything can wait later. For now, bed. As I collapsed onto my couch, still thinking about Satria's strange words, I mindlessly scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it. Satria Dominique, medical resident, dies in a single motorcycle accident at 7 p.m. last night. Wait a minute. But we were working together at 9 p.m., weren't we? He was still alive then, right? I scrolled through the comments, heart pounding. People were mourning him, talking about how kind he was, etc. But if he died last night, then who was with me on the shift? A chill crept up my spine as I replayed our final conversation in my mind. His calm words, the way he disappeared into the sunlight. Was it real? Had I just worked an entire shift with Satria's ghost? I leaned back and closed my eyes, whispering a solemn prayer for Satria, for his peace and his journey, wherever it was now taking him. Satria had worked so hard only to be lost to the very grind he had struggled against. I sighed, staring out into the early morning light, unsure of what the future would bring. I wondered if I would end up like him. One thing was certain, though, I would never forget him. And I would never forget this odd night shift at the ICU. Normal ending. Sylvie Epilogue. I had a dream right after that night shift. Mrs. Selby was standing in front of me. She looked just as she did in life, but there was a glow about her that made her seem almost ethereal. Doctor, thank you for trying your best, attending to me until I died. Oh, Mrs. Selby, I wish I could have done more. You did more than you know. But there's something I need you to do for me. Please tell my children and grandchildren that I love them. I was afraid they would forget me. They've been so busy with their lives, and I never wanted to be a burden to them. Give them that picture you took. I promise. Thank you, Doctor. I quickly went to the hospital and rushed to the dimly lit morgue. Mrs. Selby's family must have been called by now. I caught sight of two figures huddled together in the corner. They must be Mrs. Selby's children. I'm Leah, the ICU doctor who took care of your mom.
We came as soon as we heard the news. We didn't know that she had passed.
I'm sorry for your loss. She wanted me to give you this. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled picture I'd found, a photo of a younger Mrs. Selby with her children. The older sibling took it, eyes welling with tears. I can't believe we missed our chance to say goodbye.
We didn't even know she was sick. She always says she was fine. We thought we had more time.
I should have called more often. I should have just flown back, no matter what. They both began to sob quietly. My throat tightened as I watched them grieve. Maybe I could convey Mrs. Selby's message to them. When she was still when she was still able, she wanted to tell you how much she loved you. She was scared of being a burden, but she never stopped caring about you. Thank you for bringing us this doctor. We'll make sure she's remembered. Yes, I'm sure she'd want that. I left them to grieve their mother, struggling against the weight on my chest, which wrapped around me like a dense shroud. Okay. So, normal ending, Mrs. Sylvie. Hold on. Sir and Angela, yes. No. No. I don't think this will make much of a difference, but we'll see. It's, you're only, you're given, I don't know, 6 hours or something. So you can't possibly, kill everyone in one night, right? Angela, listen to me. Your mom loves you. If she doesn't, she won't be here when your father does. If she didn't, she wouldn't be here when your father's not. Angela's soul paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes as she glanced at her mother. I'm so sorry, Angela. I've been working to escape this hellhole with your father. You know that he beats me. I wanted to get away, to take you with me, so I can pay for your food and school. But in my work, I forgot how much you needed me. I'm so sorry.
She's just saying that because she's scared of losing you.
Don't let him trick you. Angela, you're stronger than this.
I don't know.
You're loved, and you deserve a chance to be happy here with your mom. Don't let him take you away. Slowly, Angela's soul started to drift back toward her body.
No, Angela. Don't be boring. Stay with me.
Yay.
But I love my mommy. And if Daddy's hurting Mommy, then she doesn't have anyone but me.
Mrs. Liam rushed to her daughter's side, cradling her as tears streamed down her face. Angela, oh my God, you're okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, baby. I've been such a terrible mother. I thought working was the only way to save us, but I wasn't there for you when you needed me the most. Angela, still groggy, blinking slowly as she leaned into her mother's hug, her small hands grasping weakly at Mrs. Liam's shirt.
It's okay, Mommy. I missed you so much.
I've been running away from our problems, but no more. I'm leaving him. We're leaving. I promise. I'll make it right. I'll make everything right. Angela's eyes fluttered closed for a moment, but this time it wasn't from exhaustion, it was from peace. She smiled weakly, nodding as she nuzzled into her mother's shoulder. For the first time, the room was filled with warmth instead of fear. The ghost kid was gone. his angry presence fading into nothingness, and all that was left was a mother and daughter, finally together. I think I did a pretty good job there. Thank you, Doctor. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here. I'm just glad you're both okay.
Thank you, Dr. Lady. And Mr. Doctor as well.
What do you mean?
When I was out there, outside my body, I saw Mr. Doctor. He was hovering around.
Hovering? Like, what do you mean?
He wasn't walking, he was just there, floating, and he looked different. Kind of like he wasn't really there, but at the same time, he was pulling the little kid to get away from me.
That was odd. I didn't see Satria around. Really? But I didn't see him at all tonight. Me neither, but I'll keep an eye on him.
I think he's going to the old man's room next. Maybe you'll catch him if you visit there often. But the kid said everyone's afraid of the scary ghost lady wearing cabaya, so she probably needs to go first.
Something wasn't right about Satria, and now Angela had seen it too. I wonder what actually happened. Angela lives! The bells ring again. Barely an audible voice that sent a chill down my spine. My time is over. Whoop. That line. So he was gone. Sobbing. For sure. Oh. I pressed the intercom for room 108, and something was different. This time his voice was calm. Interesting. It's over, Doc. I rushed to his room. When I got there, my stomach dropped. Mr. X had disconnected all of his equipment, the monitors flatlining behind him. He stood by the window, trying to pry it open, hands trembling with determination. Sir, what are you doing? He didn't answer, just kept fumbling with the window latch like a possessed man. The room felt colder, heavier, and then I heard it. The Hasidan singing again. The haunting melody slithered through the air, growing louder. And just like that, she appeared, her figure materializing in the room, moving closer with every note. She was beautiful in the most unsettling way, her smile wide, her eyes dark and empty. Mr. X whipped around, pointing at her with a trembling hand. You're dead. This isn't real. You're not real. But the woman only smiled wider, a slow, creeping smile that spread to her ears, contorting her face into something grotesque and inhuman. Her eyes locked onto him, and the air in the room felt like it was being sucked out. No, this isn't real. The woman stepped closer, still singing. She raised a hand toward him, her fingers curling like she was about to claim him. And she whispered, Gandanja. Fatima? Her smile widened even further, condensed with malice, and dripping with venom. Before I could react, her hand shot out, wrapping around his throat. Mr. Gandra's eyes bulged as he gasped for air, his hands clawing frantically at her grip. Stop! I screamed, rushing forward, trying to pull her off him. But as I grabbed her, she churned, face twisting into something horrific. Her beautiful features morphed into a monstrous figure. Her eyes were now black pits, mouth too wide for her face with sharp, jagged teeth. The air grew thick with the stench of decay.
Hirep, Nunagyan Abdi, Alyona, Hirep, Huromali.
I probably said that wrong. She tightened her grip around his throat, and Gandra's face turned a sickening shade of blue. He yanked at her arms, but it was like trying to move a large rock. Mr. Gandra's choked gasp filled the room, his eyes begging for mercy, but the ghost, Fatima, or whatever she had become, only laughed. I fumbled for the intercom, my hands shaking, and pressed the button, barely managing to croak out the words. Help! Anybody! Within moments, Satria burst into the room, prayer beads in one hand and a small pouch of salt in the other. Without a word, he threw the salt across the room, the grains catching in the air like tiny sparks. The ghost woman, Fatima, screeched an ear-piercing wail that made my skin crawl. Her monstrous figure twisted and contorted as if the very air was burning her. With one last deafening shriek, she vanished, leaving behind nothing but an icy chill in the room. Mr. Gandra slumped to the floor, gasping for breath, his body trembling. Great. Satria, unfazed, tugged the prayer beads back into his pocket, wiping his hands on his scrubs like he'd just taken out the trash. I rushed to Mr. Gandra's side as Satria administered his meds, and he was already calming down once more. We carried him back to his bed. Satria, she said, had a killing something kuro Gantina. What does that even mean? Satria's face darkened, his usual sarcasm replaced by a grim seriousness. Probably you offered me up. Now you have to pay the price. That woman, she might have been a tumble. A sacrifice in some kind of ritual. Sacrifice? She was my girlfriend. I used her for a ritual to get rich. I didn't think she'd come back. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a ghost. This was revenge. Now everything's going wrong. I've lost everything. Just leave me alone. I don't need all those injections. Satria just shook his head. It's our job to treat you, sir. Whatever you did in the past, you need to atone for it. Without waiting for an argument, Satria quickly administered a sedative. Mr. Gandra's eyelids fluttered as he drifted off into unconsciousness. You got a lot more to answer for when you wake up. As we stepped out of the room, I couldn't shake the weight of what just happened. I never thought something like that still exists in this day and age. His own girlfriend. What kind of person does that? People will do anything for money. Curious, I pulled out my phone and Googled Gandra's name. What I found sent chills down my spine. He was some sort of CEO for a startup, living the high life. I stumbled upon his social media, filled with pictures of him and a woman named Fatima. They looked so happy. Well, before everything went south, that is. It felt wrong to see those smiling faces now, knowing what happened. This dude had it all. I can't believe it. Yeah, now he's left to atone for his mistakes. Mr. X lives! It was finally 6 a.m., the end of my first grueling night shift. I was ready to head home, barely able to keep my eyes open. Thanks for everything, didn't do much. Collapsed onto my couch. Normal ending, Angela epilogue. A few days later, I bumped into Angela and her mom in the hospital. Angela looks so much better, healthier, happier. Her mom smiled at me, and I could see the relief in her eyes. Doctor, thank you for everything. It's nothing, really. So, what happens now? Well, we're moving abroad soon. Just the two of us, starting over, away from her dad. I glanced at Angela, who gave me a big grin. It was clear they were ready for a new beginning. That's great. I'm really happy for the both of you. Angela's mom pulled out her phone with a grin. Come on, let's take a quick video together. Before I could protest, she recorded a short clip of the three of us thanking me for saving her daughter. Angela smiled happily, and I awkwardly waved at the camera. And there we go, upload. You're gonna be famous now. Great, just what I needed, ma'am. Hey, at least it's for something good.
Goodbye, pretty doctor. See you again.
Feel free to DM me if you need anything, Doc. A collab, whatever. As they walked away, I felt a warmth in my chest. It was a reminder that things really can get better. Savi? Mr. X. I sat on my couch watching TV. It had been a few weeks since Mr. X, or Gandria, had been released from the hospital. The news had reported his imprisonment for drug trafficking, and I've never heard about him since. Wait, what's this? In a tragic development, Gandria Sanja was found dead in his prison cell earlier today. The cause of death is currently unknown, but sources say there was a woman's handprint around his neck when his body was discovered. I felt a chill run down my spine. Fatima. Had she truly claimed him in the end? The screen displayed a photo of Mr. X alongside a beautiful woman. The anchor continued, detailing how Gandra's fall from grace had shocked the community. People had once admired him as a successful CEO, and no one knew how he became a drug addict. Still, he had made choices that led him down this path, and it was hard to pity someone who hurt his girlfriend for wealth. Did Fatima find him at last, reclaiming what she had lost? Or was it a manifestation of his guilt? I guess I would never know. Let's see. Walking. Old man's room. And let's try going here now. I press the intercom button on room 110. I remember it being Mr. Jokomayan. Hello. Excuse me, my husband has a fever. Stuffy. Fever. Like a fever. No, it's tired. Smart. Whoop. Oh, okay. You should be fine for now. Just let me know if anything changes. She said nothing, just nodding silently as I turned to leave. Okay, he's bringing it into my back. Rush back, trying to shake off. Room 110, what's going on?
My husband is in pain, Doctor. Please come immediately.
I hurried to room 110. Mr. Milano lay in bed, his face contorted in agony, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. He's not fully conscious yet. I rushed to his side and quickly checked his vitals. Hang in there, sir. I'm going to give you something for the pain.
Oh, thank goodness you arrived quickly.
Yes, ma'am. As I administered the medication, I noticed something. Mrs. Milano stood at the foot of the bed, a serene smile on her face. But her feet weren't touching the ground. I wanted to scream, but my body froze and my hand was still administering the meds. I quickly finished my job, and God damn it, the syringe fell to the floor. As I bent down to retrieve it, I was face to face with her feet. I wasn't just dreaming. She wasn't just standing there, she was floating. The meds are in his system now. He should be alright. I'm just gonna go now. Her smile widened.
Did you leave because you're done or because you've noticed me?
The room felt a lot colder, and shadows deepened in the corners as if they were reaching out to grasp me. Somehow there were cracks in the wall. I couldn't move a muscle. Mrs. Milano, I think you should...
Do you see me?
Panic surged through me, and I turned to the door, desperate to escape. I have to go. With one last frantic glance at Mr. Milano, whose pained expression mirrored my own horror, I bolted from the room and slammed the door shut behind me. As I stumbled back into the oddly darkened hallway, I suddenly heard it, a soft, whispering voice that sent chills racing down my spine. Mrs. Milano.
Hi. You should know. One of you is just like me.
Whoa, hello.
The darkness hides secrets, my dear. One of you is pretending to be alive, just like I once was.
I slowly shuffled back toward the nurse's station, trembling. Who could it be? The nurse? Satria? I'm alive, aren't I? Or maybe Mrs. Milano was just trying to scare me. Finally 6 a.m. Thanks for everything. Imagine it and... Momo and Dean Angela. Alright, I guess I need to like watch their whole story or whatever. Angela. This is Selvina. She's 104, was it? 108 is Mr. X. 110 is the old guy. Well, I guess I did Mrs. Selvina's thing already, so... Old man. Press the intercom button for room 110. I remember it being Mr. Joko Milano's room, the elderly man who recently had his leg amputated. Hello. Good evening. Hello, hello. Anything else? Should be fine. Door shut behind me. Not this again. Room 3 empty. Miss. Angela. 3's empty, right? I was about to press the intercom button. As I was about to press the intercom button, I stopped in my tracks, a chill creeping up my spine. The room was empty. No patient, no reason for that bell to be ringing. I turned to look at Satya, expecting him to react, but he just frowned and shook his head. The room is empty, right?
Yeah, it is. Could be a glitch in the system. Happens sometimes.
His casual tone didn't convince me, or him, judging by the way he glanced down the hallway. My heart started to race as I stared into the darkness. Do you want me to go check it out?
Knock yourself out. If you see anything spooky, remember to scream so we can all run away.
Great. Just what I needed. A sarcastic senior in a haunted hospital. I approached room 112 like I was wading through thick fog. When I finally reached the door, I opened it as loudly as possible, almost shouting. Excuse me! The room was pitch black. It's just an empty room. No big deal, just an empty, possibly haunted room. My hand fumbled for the light switch, and when I flicked it on, the lights turned on, revealing absolutely nothing. The room was exactly as it should be, empty, sterile, and completely devoid of life. And yet, the call bell was still ringing, even though there was no one there to press it. Holy shit! I quickly stepped back, slamming the door shut behind me. I hurried back to Satya, and he looked as unimpressed as ever, that bastard.
Well,
he didn't even bother looking up from his coffee. There's nothing there. But the bell's still... Satya finally looked at me, his expression darkening just a bit.
Just keep an eye on it. Sometimes these things happen. Or, we could just pretend it didn't. Up to you.
He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. The shift's still a long way to go. Feeling thirsty, went to the lounge, got a coffee. Ring ring. Room 110, what's going on? Husband in pain. Put the medication. Find out she's a ghost. She's gonna go now. Bye, man. Room 108. 105, I guess. I pressed the intercom button for room 105, 3. not knowing what response I should have expected. Oddly enough, I was met with a soft, heart-wrenching crying of a young woman. Satria! Can you come over here? I think we need to check this out. Satria shuffles over, a lazy smirk on his face that dropped the moment he heard the sobs echoing through the intercom.
Ugh, creepy.
Can we check the room together?
Or maybe we don't have to.
But what if someone really needs our help?
Fine.
Satria shot back, rolling his eyes. He followed me regardless. As we approached the door, the crying intensified. I felt a tightening in my chest, but curiosity pulled me forward. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob as the crying suddenly stopped. Did you hear that?
Yeah, but whatever it is, it's gone now.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Anyway, on 3.
With a deep breath, we pushed the door open. I swore the room looked different just now. I scanned the room, half expecting to find someone curled up in the corner, but instead it was eerily empty. There was no crying, no sign of distress, just the sterile smell of antiseptic and the dim glow of the overhead lights. I glanced at Satria, who looked like a deer in headlights. Well, where's the crying coming from?
Like I said, it's gone. Come on, let's head back. Maybe you need a rest.
As we stood there, I couldn't help but feel that something was very, very wrong. The crying had stopped, but I didn't think it was over. It was just the beginning of our shift. Suddenly, room 108's door swung open violently. Mr. X, with his wild eyes and disheveled hair, burst out, throwing away all of his medical equipment as if it were poison.
She's after me!
Satria, we have to stop him! We chased after him, but he was too fast, too frantic.
I have to run! I can make it!
He bolted into an empty room, and before I could reach him, he lunged for the window. Sir, this is the 5th floor. He jumped, and I felt time stretch as I watched him fall. The sickening thud echoed through the halls, and the air filled with the haunting sounds of Gomlin and a Hessian song, an eerie lullaby that seemed to mock the tragedy. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, when a woman's laughter pierced through the haunting melody. It was as if coming from the very depths of hell. No! No! The sight of his lifeless body sprawled on the ground below broke something inside me. My vision blurred, and the world around me spun as I sank to the floor, darkness closing in. Then suddenly, I was awake in my work attire, my heart racing in my own bedroom. Wait, where am I? The familiar walls surrounded me, and the night shift felt like a distant nightmare. I blinked, disoriented, and for a moment I couldn't shake the feeling that it had all been real. I checked my phone, and it's the day before the night shift. It was supposed to be tomorrow. What the hell? I frantically turned the TV on, and there it was on the news. Tragic news from the city hospital. Anadra Sanjay, once prominent CEO, has jumped to his death from the hospital building. Sources say he was struggling with overwhelming debt from online loans, a situation he found himself entangled in after a series of poor financial decisions. My stomach twisted as the screen flashed images of him, smiling with a woman who looked like the Hessian woman. They looked so happy, so full of life. Now that joy was gone, leaving behind nothing but despair. Witnesses reported hearing strange sounds coming from the hospital moments before the incident. Authorities are investigating the circumstances surrounding his death. I stared at the screen, frozen. The laughter, the singing, it all came flooding back. I felt sick. Was this all connected with the night I had spent at the hospital? As the news continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare wasn't truly over. Mr. X dies. Okay, so we can't let him die. Got it. Give you your meds. Take your meds. Press the intercom button to room 110. Room 110, what's going on? Dr. Leah, can you check my husband? One moment, please. I'll be right there. You're not even gonna hide it, huh? Not gonna try? When I stepped in, the familiar, unsettling sight of Mrs. Malono greeted me. Only this time she looked ghostly. Her feet were still completely off the floor, just hovering. I swallowed hard, pushing the fear and unease down as best I could. Your husband's vitals seem stable and he's recovering well. Thank God. I was so afraid. I don't think I could ever leave him. Her voice quivered, and for a moment I could almost forget she was a ghost. It was just a woman clinging to the memory of the man she loved. I died of cancer just 3 months ago. It wasn't quick. It dragged on, took everything from me. I didn't think he could ever recover from that, and we don't have any children to accompany him while I'm gone. I stood there, silent, unsure what to say. We wanted kids, but when it became clear that it wasn't going to happen, I thought he would leave. But he never did. He said he married me for me, not for children. That's what he told me. Oh, my dearest. When I got sick, he took care of me every single day. Never complained, never once made me feel like a burden. He was always my rock, right until the very end. And now, he's all alone. I should have been there for him, but instead he's left alone, without me. All I want now is to repay him for everything, just to make sure he's alright. That's all I need before I can finally let go. As I stood there, still trying to process everything, Mrs. Malono's ghostly figure floated a little closer. Doctor, can you promise me something? Promise me you'll make sure he gets better. I hesitated. There was no way I could make that kind of promise. Healing wasn't something I could guarantee. I can't promise he'll get better, but I can promise you that I'll do everything I can. I'll give it my hardest. It's the best I can do. For a moment, she didn't say anything, just looked at me. That's good enough for me. Suddenly warm, bright light surrounded her. It wasn't like the usual eerie glow that accompanied her before. It was softer, more peaceful. I watched as she slowly faded into the light, her form dissolving into nothingness. She was gone, just like that. I then heard a groan from the bed. Mr. Malono was waking up. From the bed, Mr. Malono was waking up. He looked around, confused.
Doctor, what's going on? I had the strangest dream.
You're fine, Mr. Malono. Your anesthesia is wearing off.
It's not so. I dreamt of my wife. She was here with me. But she's dead, Doctor. Could I be hallucinating? Was that the sedatives?
I felt a lump in my throat, but I smiled back at him and shook my head. As I turned to leave, Mr. Malono's voice stopped me.
Thank you for everything. I hope I hope my wife can see how well you're all taking care of me here.
I paused for a moment, glancing toward the empty space where Mrs. Malono had been only moments ago. I'm sure she knows. The bells ring again. No two. Not knowing what to respond. Crying. Satria, come again. Can check the room with me again. Credit song. Great, another empty room.
Just let it be. It's not worth it.
My heart raced as I pressed the intercom, hoping to hear something, but only silence answered me. Hello? No response, just an eerie silence, again. I finally go to the empty room, reaching for the doorknob. An icy breeze brushed past me. I push the door open.
Curious, do you want to play?
Okay, nope, not doing this. I bolted down the hallway as fast as my legs could go, the sound of her laughter hot in my pursuit. Whatever was haunting this place felt hungry, searching for something or someone. Gosh, she's not after me, isn't she? I rounded the corner in a full sprint, heart pounding, when I slammed straight into Satria, nearly knocking both of us over.
Oh, hey! No running in the hallways unless it's an emergency.
Satria, there was something in the empty room. A woman, or I don't even know, but she was there, I swear.
Oh, really?
Why is her neck like that? Yeah, his neck. There was something off about him. Satria? His smile was too stiff. His eyes were darker than usual, in a way that didn't belong in the light. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and for a moment I could swear the hallway lights dimmed around him. You saw her too, didn't you?
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. What does it matter?
I didn't know what terrified me more, what I saw in that empty room, or the strange way Satria was acting. Something wasn't right.
Maybe you should get back to work, Leah. Things get strange around here after midnight.
Yeah, you're right. The animatronics get quirky at night. I walked towards the nurse station again, not sure if I was more afraid of the ghost or of Satria at that moment. Why is the nurse station so dark? I was relieved to see the nurse standing there, eyes glued on the monitor. Hey, you won't believe what I just saw. Empty rooms. Best you ignore it. So, you knew? I know that this hospital's been here since the Dutch colonial times. Back then, it was a military infirmary. There was a widow who lost her husband during the war. People say she never left, still wandering the halls looking for him. Oh. Yeah, if you keep entertaining her, she'll take a liking to you, you know? And not the let's grab coffee kind of like, more like haunt you forever like. Great, just what I needed. Suddenly every shadow in the corner felt like it was watching me. I might have made a very big mistake. The bells ring again. Loud crash. Just a cup. Bells ring. Do I check on... No one answering again. My heart raced as I reluctantly made my way toward the empty room. I remembered what the nurse said, but curiosity got the best of me. When I pushed the door open, I was taken aback. Hello? The ghost woman stood there, looking strangely serene, dressed in a beautiful kabaya that flowed like smoke around her. Ah, so you've come. My name is Gendis. You're quite the odd one, aren't you? I'm Leah. Are you a ghost? She laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. Obviously. Most people would run away from what they see, but you linger. You're curious, perhaps a bit too curious for your own good. Why do you keep ringing the bell? What do you want from me? I want nothing from you, dear. Before I could respond, the air grew heavy, and the lights flickered ominously. My instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs were glued to the floor. You're not supposed to be here during this night shift. Neither is your friend. This place is a threshold. It's an in-between. ICU holds souls teetering between life and death, and sometimes they choose to stay. Stay? Do you mean I'm dead? No, which is why you're not supposed to be here. Your shift is tomorrow. What? The souls linger here, caught in their regrets and sorrows. They can become restless, searching for closure. And I am here, watching over them, watching over you. Satria is your friend, but he too was drawn to this darkness. Girl, you feel deeply, more than others. Maybe that's why you're here now. The weight of sorrow clings to you. I've seen it, and I've seen how it affects those who wander here. You must remember that not all souls are benevolent. Some may wish to pull you down with them. With that, she turned away. Her figure slowly dissipated into the shadows, leaving me alone. Leah. Oh, it's just you, Satria. I turned around, startled to find Satria standing behind me. I just talked to a ghost named Gendis. She told me I'm not supposed to be on this shift. I mixed it up somehow. Crazy, right?
Yes, your shift's supposed to be tomorrow.
Then... Satria's expression darkened as his head began to twitch erratically.
Tonight, we're walking a line between reality and something far more dangerous. I think she was just trying to warn you.
Warn me? From what? Satria smiled at me, a sad, warm smile that ironically sent a chill down my spine. But as I stepped back, the warmth faded. His figure began to shift and distort, revealing bloodied skin, battered limbs, and bruises that painted a horrific picture. I could see the ribs poking out from his emaciated frame, the once comforting presence now a grotesque vision. Satria, what's happening to you?
Go home. This is not your place. You belong with the living.
As the reality of his words sank in, the world around me began to spin. My vision blurred, and the room darkened. The last thing I saw was the haunting look on his face before everything faded to black. I passed out. The next day, I found myself in the familiar chaos of the hospital, the bright lights flickering above me as I made my way to my actual shift. My mind was still reeling from the events the night before, questioning whether it had all been a nightmare or something much darker. As I walked past the nurse's station, I spotted the nurse from yesterday. She looked up and offered a sympathetic smile. Oh, hey. Sorry for your loss. Excuse me? Haven't you heard? One of the senior residents passed away. We're running on a skeleton crew today because there's a funeral happening. Funeral? What was his name? Satria? My heart raced as I processed the nurse's words. Satria's funeral? No, that couldn't be right. I was sure I'd just seen him last night. We were working on a shift together. Huh? But he never made it here. He was in a bad accident before going to his shift. No, I spoke to him. He was... But the words caught in my throat, and the room around me began to spin. My mind raced back to the night before, to the vision of Satria bloodied and bruised, warning me to leave while I still could. Had I truly been awake? For a brief moment, I thought I saw Gendis standing in the doorway. I blinked hard and she was gone. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. Hey, take a deep breath, new resident. It's your first shift. You're under a lot of stress. Yeah, maybe that's what this is. Stress. As the weeks passed, I struggled with the news of Satria's death. It felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I wish I could have asked him what happened during that last shift. I focused on my work as a doctor, and each day I reminded myself of Gendis' words, to care and feel deeply. Even though I never saw Gendis or Satria again, I felt their spirit in the small moments, when a patient smiled or a family member said thank you. It reminded me of why I chose this path in the first place. I often looked out the window, hoping to understand what happened that night, but I realized I needed to let it go. Maybe he just needed to finish his shift one last time. Gendis, special ending. Shoko epilogue. Mr. Joko Malono returned to the hospital for his follow-up, and after his appointment, came over to me in the hallway. He was holding a beautifully decorated music box.
Dr. Leah, I just wanted to thank you for everything. My wife, she loved this music box. It was her favorite, and I'd like to give it to you.
Mr. Malono, I really don't know what to say. He smiled gently, holding out the box.
It's fine, Doctor. She always said it brought her peace. I think she'd want someone like you to take care of it. I don't have any children to pass it to anyway.
I carefully took the music box from him. I'll treasure it, I promise.
You know, when I first met her, I never imagined how much she'd change my life. We didn't have children, but we had each other. That's enough for me. I hope one day you find someone who loves you as much as she loved me.
His words hung in the air, and I felt a lump in my throat. Thank you. He gave me one last smile before turning to leave. As I stood there with the music box in my hands, I could feel all the memories it held. It made me think about the kind of life I wanted to build, too. Let's see. What if... what if I, start everyone's roots, I guess you could call it? Right? Let's see, there's Angela, old lady, the old man, the crazy guy. Just those four? Let's see. Angela. Old lady. crazy guy. Old man. Okay, so I need to make sure the crazy guy doesn't die. But I don't want to go to his room too often. Check on this guy first. Take your meds, sir. Room 3 is empty. Mrs. Selvey. Angela. Up on the floor. I don't know if there's a fast forward button, but just press any button. Stop no chill carpet up my spine. The room's empty. Could be a glitch in the system. Nothing. Angela. Angela. Ivy. I'm a tic-tac model. Room 102. Oh, has a fever. Blah blah blah. I'm a ghost. Did I screech? Hopefully that wasn't too far into his route or whatever. I don't think that's the end, right? So it's probably fine. Scratching. Empty room. Hello. They're running in the halls. Don't go to the empty rooms anymore. Okay. Okay. Put your head by the exit. Thanks for everything. I didn't do much. More shifts in the future. Bed. I wonder, like, instead of going to the empty rooms, maybe I have to, like, save everyone. Let's see. I'm not sure what else I can do differently. Blah. Okay, crazy guy. I guess I'm like thinking, do I go back into his room when he's throwing up? Or... I don't know. Cup. Let's check on Angela. Angela, I guess. Old man. Old guy. Angela. Okay, so don't die. I'm assuming you can't kill the old man. I was thinking maybe like there's a bad ending where you let everyone die, but don't know. You just not. I don't know. Okay, Angela's good. Oh, damn. Okay. So, I need... Okay. Let's just, Okay, or at this point, is it too late to go to Mr. X? Lives. Take your meds. Screech. Husband is in pain. Gonna go now. Bye. da da da. So you should be fine, I think, right? But you still die for some reason. So Angela and... Whoops. Angela... Mr. X... Okay, so what... Hold on, is it possible for me to just go into just like empty rooms, maybe? I don't know. Or is that the Gendis lady? But I need to make sure Mr. X doesn't kill himself. Let's give him his meds. Empty. Like, let's just do Mr. X in empty rooms, I guess? Maybe? I feel like this part might be important. Like, do I just go to empty rooms and then something happens here, or... Take your meds. Screech. An empty room. Blue. Ignore it, but I'm not going to. Hello. That's supposed to be here. What is this sixth one? Is there like a guide or something here? Looking at the page. Boo, boo, boo. Okay, Mrs. Selby lives if you don't go through her route. Okay. Don't think that's what I need. Okay. So it seems I have to save Angela, and then Mr. X, and then Mr. Joko. Okay, let's try that. Like, I was wondering what to do about, like, what Angela said. Like, oh, the ghost is in this room, in that room. So, I don't know, see what this is. See how this goes. So, okay, him. Start off with him. Angela. Go talk to Angela. I guess I go to Mr. X next, maybe? Because I don't know when he, has his little attacks. Screech. Okay, Angela. Angela, come and play. She loves you. Don't listen to this demon child. Let's see. This is the guy, the ghost guy was helping me, blah blah blah. Mr. Doctor's, he's hovering around. Floating, he looked different. Old man's room next. Kid said everyone's friend. Okay. Okay, so Angela. I guess I'll go here. They said what Fatima was wearing was the kabaya, right? Okay. Mr. X. This should be the last one, I think. Okay. I assure you, Mrs. Malono, your husband's stable and recovering well. I peeked through the small window in the door and saw Mrs. Malono, her ghostly figure shimmering faintly in the flickering light. Relief washed over her face as she listened. Did he know that she was a ghost? Oh, thank goodness. I couldn't bear leaving him alone. He needs me, you know. He can't do anything without me.
You've done everything you can. He'll be okay. The doctors are keeping a close eye on him.
But what if he forgets? What if he wakes up and doesn't remember how to take care of himself? I can't stand the thought of him alone, so helpless.
I'm sure he'll remember what to do, and he'll remember you, too.
You know, Doctor, I've always been there for him through everything. He can't cook, he can't clean. Such a hopeless man. What if he needs me and I'm not there? I can't bear the thought of him struggling alone. I'm infertile. We don't have children. Who would take care of him?
We'll make sure he's taken care of.
Mrs. Malono sighed. Doctor, do you think he feels me? Do you think he knows I'm here?
I'm sure the connection between you two is stronger than anything.
I see. That's a relief. And what about you, Doctor? Who did you leave behind? At that moment, my heart dropped. What did she mean?
I, too, have unfinished responsibilities before I go to the other side.
I felt the world spin before me as realization struck. Satria was one of them, a ghost, trapped between realms, still tied to the living. All this time, I thought I was working alongside my senior, but no. He was an apparition carrying the weight of his unfinished business. What the hell was happening? Without thinking, I turned on my heel and bolted down the hallway. As I ran past the nurse's station, I saw the nurse, looking confused as heck. Was she a ghost too?
Leah, wait!
No! Get away! I reached the elevator and was about to press the button when Satria appeared. The elevator was dead. I was stuck.
Please, you have to listen to me.
What the hell are you? Am I dead too? Is everyone dead already?
No, not everyone in the ICU is dead.
And what about you?
I died on my way to my shift. Motorcycle accident. It was quick. One moment I was driving, and the next, I found myself in the ICU.
What do you mean you found yourself? You just showed up here?
Exactly. I was confused at first. I thought I was just having a weird dream or something. But then I saw the patients, the nurses, and I realized I was still here in a sense. Still working.
Why?
I've paid a lot for this. My family has sacrificed so much for me to become a doctor. I can't just die now.
But...
Of course, you wouldn't understand. Both of your parents are highly esteemed specialists. My parents aren't anyone important in the medical field. I endured endless shifts, grueling nights, and terrible treatment from seniors who didn't care about anything but their own egos. I worked myself to the bone, trying to prove I was worthy. And now, I'm dead because I was sleepy that one time. This isn't fair.
I wanted to comfort him, but the pain in his voice silenced me. I didn't understand because I didn't want to be here in the first place. But Satria wanted this.
I wanted to make a difference, damn it. Not become a ghost in a hospital. It feels like a punishment for all those late nights and missed meals.
So, what do you want me to do?
Tell them. Tell everyone what happened to me. Look at me, Leah.
As Satria spoke, his figure began to shift and contort before my eyes. The confident, lively doctor I knew faded away, replaced by a frail, emaciated version of himself. His skin clung to his bones, and dark circles hung under his eyes, evidence of countless sleepless nights. Suddenly, his body twisted again, and I gasped as bruises erupted across his skin, vivid marks from the accident that had claimed his life. His skull appeared almost split in two. I took a step back, horrified.
This is what overworking does to you.
No, there's no way.
Tell that to them. The ones who set the shifts with minimal staff and unbelievable hours. Hell, it doesn't matter to me now. I'm dead. You're what's left.
Where was the accident, Satria? He hesitated for a moment, the shadows flickering across his face.
It was on the highway, just outside the city. I was rushing to my shift, trying to make it on time.
As his words trailed away, everything around me began to blur, and I felt a familiar pull as reality slipped away. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my own bedroom, somehow still in my work attire. My heart raced as I remembered Satria's words. I leaped out of bed. I needed to get to the accident site. Wait for me, Senior. Arriving at the accident site, I could see remnants of the crash. Shattered glass, twisted metal, a broken motorcycle, and Satria's body. Just like how I saw him. But this time, he was lifeless. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling as I dialed for help. This is Leah. I'm at the accident site on the highway. I need an ambulance and the police, please. There's a man down, and he's not breathing. After I hung up, I glanced back at Satria's body. I gently checked for any signs of life, but I already knew the truth. There was no way he could have survived. After a few moments that felt like an eternity, I heard the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. As they rushed to Satria's side, I stepped back. I watched them work with thoughts of everything that had happened, the night shift, the angry spirits, and Satria's ghost. I didn't know if any of them were real, but what I know is this seat in front of me was. Satria asked me for a favor. It's time for me to make sure that nothing like this happens again in the future. In the months after Satria's tragic death, I made it my mission to share his story. I couldn't let his struggles go unnoticed. I started talking to other doctors, including my own parents, encouraging them to open up about their experiences and push for change. Together, we gathered evidence of the long hours and tough conditions that came with the job. We shared our stories at meetings and wrote articles to raise awareness about the need for better working conditions in healthcare. Slowly but surely, people started to listen. The hospital administration took notice, and they finally launched an initiative to improve our working conditions. They set limits on our hours, created better rest areas, and offered more mental health support. On the anniversary of Satria's death, I organized a small memorial. Friends, colleagues, and family came together to share stories about the impact he had. As we lit candles in his memory, I felt a warm breeze. It's almost like Satria was here with us, smiling from the heavens. Satria, special ending. Angela. Hey, Angela. Ready for a new beginning? Do-do-do. Mr. X, he, says, yep, he's gone. Okay. Well, that's everything, I guess. Sorry it took a little while to get there, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoyed the characters, the art. I really like the art, because again, it's like Paranormasight, and I love that game so much. I want more Paranormasight, but it might not happen, and I'm sad. Anyway, again, thank you guys for watching. I'll think of, I'll look for more games that are, maybe, targeted around a certain fear, maybe. I don't know. I'll think about it. But, yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Take care, and bye!